under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So everybody snapped their attention for that. That's good, but we're going to have to do that again in about 2 minutes.
It was a good rehearsal, guys.
Everybody jumps up. Really impressive. It's like when
Yeah, right.
It's that sinking feeling that it's just that's right. No.
Okay. It's 7 o'clock, and we're going to call the October 17th meeting of the Public School Board of Directors for Council Rock School District meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ben Witowski and Jonas Seating.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing.
Wonderful, wonderful job.
Okay, Ms. Rice, can we get a roll call, please?
Joe Hidalgo,
Present.
Christine Marcel. Here. Marion McKee. Here. Ed Solomon.
Here.
Ed Tate.
Here.
Mike Thorwart and Andy Blocker. Absent.
As is Denise.
Mark Bilek
Here?
and Denise Brooks.
Right, so Mr. Black, Ms. Brooks, and Mr. Thorwart are out on business tonight. Okay. So there's 6 members present, correct? Okay. Mr. Funk, Student Advisory Board?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bialik. Ladies and gentlemen of the School Board of Directors, Central Administrators, Dr. Robert Frazier. It is indeed a pleasure to come before you this evening to introduce Council Rock High School South Student Advisory Board. This is our first presentation of the 2019-2020 academic year, and we certainly welcome back Nick, Katie, and Olivia, and we extend a warm welcome to our new 9th grade representative, Mallory, and they will endeavor to keep you updated on the many happenings in our school community. Regretfully, Andrew Rosenfeld could not make it this evening. He is competing in the North versus South soccer match, so we certainly wish him well. So without further ado, I give you our MBIT rep, Olivia.
Hello, my name is Olivia Gaudet, and I'm a senior at Council Rock High School South, and I am also a third-year student in the cosmetology program at MBIT. October is Fire Safety Awareness Month, and the public safety students will be working throughout the community with local fire departments to educate the public about fire safety. The adult evening school program has begun, and the fall semester offers courses in automotive, carpentry, technology, electrical, welding, dental assistant, and more. The adult classes provide instruction in current technologies, opportunities for a new career. They update or even earn a certificate. The Middle Bucks seniors have completed their NOCD pre-testing, and the Bucks County Community College class has begun. This semester, students are taking Introduction to Small Business, which is offered on-site at Middle Bucks. The students in automotive and collision repair programs visited Maple Glen Raceway on September 13th to get an inside look at all that is involved with maintaining racing cars. MBIT has announced the fall open house schedule for November 21st, 2019, starting at 5 p.m. Finally, Aspirations, our student-operated restaurant, and Salon Extreme, our student-operated salon, will be open to the public this month. And my senior class, Cosmetology, is holding a clothing drive till December 6th, and we will be starting a food drive November 1st. We would like to remind the community that they can learn more about the latest happenings at MBIT by liking us on Facebook, following us on Instagram, Twitter, and viewing our videos on YouTube. I look forward to reporting to you at the next school board meeting. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to keep you informed about what is happening at Middle Bucks Institute of Technology.
Hello, I'm Mallory Sands, a 9th grade representative for Student Advisory Board. Yesterday morning, the entire 9th grade was invited to an assembly to meet and hear from Miss Lorenda Helwig, a counselor from the Middle Bucks Institute of Technology. Every year, the 9th grade meets with a representative from MBIT and the many programs offered there to our students. This information is very important as we begin planning our schedule of classes for next school year. We learned that students are permitted to enroll in MBIT in 10th grade and can complete an area of certification in several vocalizational areas during the last 3 years of their high school experience. Students interested in seeing MBIT can shadow another student who attends a program of interest or can schedule a tour through their counselor. This past Saturday, October 12th, Council Rock South held its first 17th annual Fall Festival. The event ran from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and was largely sponsored by the class of 2020. There was a variety of food and activities to make the day extra special. The raffle baskets and silent auction are always a highlight. This year, Mr. Raddick and Mr. Funk jumped into the dunk tank. The event raised over $3,000 and everyone had a great time. Thank you to all of our clubs and community sponsors for making the event wonderful.
Hi, my name is Katie Burke, and I'm now your 10th grade Student Advisory Board representative. I hope you all enjoyed a wonderful and relaxing summer, and now it's back to reality. Although it seems like the school year just started, the end of the first marking period, November 8th, is quickly approaching. From now until that time, students are looking forward to some exciting and memorable school events. On the evening of October 24th, the National Honor Society Fall Induction will be held in the auditorium. All seniors with a cumulative GPA of at least 3.95 and 50 links hours are eligible for induction. Next Wednesday, cheers from South Gym will be heard all over Holland. It's our annual Blue, White, and Gold Night. After months of planning by student council members, class t-shirts are designed and printed, and student volunteers are ready to showcase their athletic skills in a variety of events. I'm hoping for a sophomore sweep of all events. Switching gears to the arts. South's marching band has been practicing for countless hours on their performance called Elevation. It features stair-like structures that elevate sections of the band, which has proven to be a showstopper. This past weekend, the band competed in a doubleheader, winning all competition categories at North Brunswick High School and earning a superior rating at their Marching at the Rock performance. We wish them luck this weekend as they prepare for the state championships at Westchester University. South's Mini-Thon Club is off to a great start this year. In mid-September, they collected money from McCaffrey shoppers in Newtown for the 4 Diamonds Fund for Childhood Cancer. Plans are also underway for a Westchester volleyball tournament on November 20th. The culminating fundraising event, the Mini-Thon, will be held in February. The club members are hoping to exceed the $3,000 total they raised last year. Thank you and have a great night.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Milvoy, and I'm now the senior representative for the Council Rock South SAB. Before we start, tradition lives on, which means Disney is in 180 days, and I will be singing to you, the board, approximately 189 days from now. Tonight, I have many current and upcoming events ranging from the Golden Wings Show, Spirit Week, Fall Sports, and Winter Ball. Golden Wings Theater Company will be doing Disney's Freaky Friday for their fall show. Performances will be held in the CR South Auditorium on Thursday, November 7th, and Friday, November 8th at 7 p.m., with Saturday shows at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Spirit Week at South will be next week. The Spirit Days will be Pajama Day on Monday, Character Day on Tuesday, class shirts and senior theme on Wednesday, with Blue, White, and Gold Night that day in the South Gym at 7 p.m. Thursday will be Jersey Day, and last but not least, Friday will be Blackout with the North versus South game that day at Walt Snyder Stadium at 7 p.m. Now into fall sports. Girls cross country is 5-1 and will have league championships this Friday at Lehigh Valley, with the boys cross country team being 6-0 and is looking for first place in the SOL National Conference. Field hockey is 12-5 with 1 game to go in the season, as they are currently 11th in the district. Women's soccer is 10-3-1 and is looking to close out the season along with the men's soccer team with games against Tenet and CR North. The football team has 2 games remaining in the season, against the Chamonix on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. and against North on Friday, October 25th at 7 p.m. Both games are home games. And finally, the golf team placed 3rd in the SOL National Conference, with Audrey Reese and Jacob Waskowitz advancing to districts. Finally, Winter Ball will be held on Saturday, November 16th from 6:30 to 10 p.m. at South, with this year's theme being Winter Wonderland. Before I close out tonight, I want to thank everyone here for a great start for the 2019-2020 school year, and I will see you all again at the next meeting on December 19th. Thank you and good night.
Well done, Team South. Well done. Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
I always wonder if Nick's going into broadcasting. Really great. Okay, moving on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Frazier.
All right, thank you, Mr. Violet. Good evening, members of the board and members of our community. I'll begin this evening with the report. Quick brief on an incident that occurred this morning at Holland Middle School. As our community knows, there was a threatening note that was found in one of our restrooms by one of our middle school students this morning at HMS. I do want to very sincerely thank Chief Clark and the Northampton Police Department, as well as our very own CR security team, who all responded to the scene immediately and also conducted a very thorough and yet very efficient investigation. That investigation resulted, as I communicated via email today, in a student admitting to having written the threatening note and placing that note in that restroom. Unfortunately, clearly the student is now going to face significant disciplinary consequences, and we will also work with this student from an overall wellness perspective, as well as work with his family on that. Now, I will take this opportunity because this situation provides an opportunity to once again point out that we have just recently renewed our Council Rock strategic plan. At the forefront of that strategic plan is student wellness, a big component of which is mental health, and also school safety and security. You can find this page or this plan on our CR homepage, and I encourage everyone, if you have not yet had a chance to take a look at that plan, please do so. It extends from now through 2023 and really sets the compass for us for where we intend to go in those arenas, and also redefining student success over these next 4 school years. So very unfortunate situation, but I'm very proud and appreciative of the folks who were first on the scene and able to work through that unfortunate situation. Now, this evening, I'd also like to remind parents in our community that we have 2 extremely important education committee meetings coming up. The main topics at these meetings are going to be school start times and our high school master schedule. I hope I'm not stealing any thunder. Okay, to come. Repetitive messages are not a bad thing, so it's okay. So the first of these meetings is going to be actually 1 week from this evening, and we're going to do it here in this room. Because we expect that perhaps we'll see a few more people than what we normally see at our Ed Committee meetings, and 2, because we recognize that perhaps not everyone who would like to come can come, and so this room allows us to televise that meeting. So you'll be able to watch that from the comfort of your home live or archived on our YouTube channel. As always, the focus next week is going to be school start times. We do have an expert in that field of adolescent sleep, Dr. Jackie Kloss, who will be here making a presentation to the board with a follow-up discussion about that very important topic. I'll also note that just today, the Joint State Government Commission from Pennsylvania released a report titled Sleep Deprivation in Adolescence, the Case for Delaying Secondary School Start Times. So that's a piece of work that we've been waiting for, literally just came out today. That came out of Harrisburg, and you may have seen a few days prior to that, the state of California is the first state in the country to actually mandate delayed school start times for all secondary schools. Now, they are exempting those that are in rural areas, but besides that, all secondary schools in the state of California need to adhere to a certain start time of either 8 or 8:30 in that neighborhood. So that's what next week is going to be all about, mostly from an educational perspective. And then the following Education Committee meeting, which will be held in November, is going to focus on both of those topics, school start times and our high school master schedule. And importantly, that evening is going to include a financial analysis of both of those options by Mr. Bill Stone, our Director of Business Administration. So I hope that you can mark your calendars accordingly to either be here with us on those 2 evenings or to at least watch from home, because they're quite significant endeavors and potential initiatives that we are considering, and community feedback, staff feedback always is an important part of that process. So if you're able to participate, we ask that you please do so. And with that, I am going to invite Mr. Funk back up to the podium for one of our most exciting times of the year as we celebrate Council Rock South's National Merit Scholars, who I see lined up in the back of the room and will soon be coming up front. So Mr. Bialik, if you would join me down there, please.
The National Merit Scholarship Program is an academic competition for recognition and scholarships that actually began in 1955. High school students enter by taking the preliminary SAT. Of the 1.6 million entrants, the top 50,000 scores nationwide qualify for commended status. In September, about 16,000 of those students are notified that they qualify as semifinalists. This academic year, Council Rock South is extremely proud to have 2 commended students and 5 semifinalists. These students were recently honored with a breakfast at school, and now it is our pleasure to honor them with our school board of directors and our superintendent. I would like to start by calling forward our commended students. Ashish Kavali. Brandon Gormley. And now our semifinalists in alphabetical order. Jordan Chekhov. Janvi Dasaka. Paul McDonald. Jayton Singh. And lastly, Jessica Wong. Ladies and gentlemen, Council Rock High School South's best and brightest are creme de la creme. Thank you. All right, picture time. Feel free to stand up and let's get them in. Oh, I'm getting it. Okay. Great job, everyone. All right, fantastic. And I am going to conclude my report here this evening with something that we provide every October, or at least by every October at a school board meeting in the realm of our capital planning work. So I don't think there's going to be anything new here this evening that the board hasn't seen in the past, but it's important that we do provide this information and this presentation in this public format here once again. So our topic here is long-range master facilities plan, and the first thing that we will do is take a look at the components of this plan that have already been accomplished or are in progress of being accomplished. And so we shall start with the Wrightstown Elementary School. We actually just had a rededication celebration of Wrightstown Elementary School last month.
as the school did reopen in August to start this school year. And of note there, and you're going to see this come up several times as we go through this presentation, that in the 2018-19 school year, last school year, Wrightstown Elementary School was placed at the former Richboro Middle School. Served as a swing school. What that allowed us to do was to not have students at the construction site. It allowed for a clean construction site, which meant that we were able to actually complete that construction project in 1 year instead of 2 years and save significant money in the process of doing that. So you're going to see that over and over again with other schools currently as well as upcoming. Now, that project did include not only a complete renovation of the school, but a 5-classroom addition, as well as the addition of a gymnasium, as Wrightstown had been the only Council Rock school elementary school without a gymnasium. And those 5 classrooms, importantly, allowed us to bring Wrightstown back to a K-6 school, just like all the other CR elementary schools. And as you can see, the age of Wrightstown there was just about 55 years old. So that's a bit about where we were. Here's a bit about where we are. Right now, residing in the former Richboro Middle School is Rolling Hills Elementary School. That school, Rolling Hills, will reopen this coming August in time for the 2020-21 school year. And again, because Rolling Hills right now is at Richboro Middle, we are able to get those students away from the construction site. We are able to do that project in 1 year instead of 2 years and achieve the cost savings associated with that. And part of this project is adding 3 classrooms to what had been their footprint, and undoubtedly, most dramatically of all, is getting rid of the 1970s open pod design, of which Rolling Hills is infamous for, but it's time that we bring him into the new century, and that we will do. And as you can see, Rolling Hills there is right around 47 years old. So that's kind of where we've been, where we are, and then this next segment here will take us through these next 4 years. So from a big picture standpoint, in putting this plan together, and I would tell you that we are very proud of this plan, and these are the reasons why we're proud of this plan. And we'll get into details after this to back some of this up. But we are accomplishing a great deal with this plan with the most efficient time span, and you'll see that, with the lowest possible educational disruption for our students. As we talk about using places as swing space, we can do construction with students on the site, but obviously we prefer not to. And every bit as importantly, with the lowest possible impact to taxpayers. So if we were to take this plan and elongate this plan, stretch it out over a greater number of years, the total cost would actually be greater than doing it the way that we're doing it. So that's what I call a win-win. It's best for kids, it's best for teachers, it's best for our entire staff, it's best for the community, our tax-paying community, and I think that you will agree as we continue to walk through this. So big picture of this plan, and really this plan, we're calling it a long-term plan because in effect it goes out until the year 2030, but the reality of this is that the substantial bulk of this work, if not all of the work, is going to be completed by the summer of 2023. So through this work, we will improve teaching and learning conditions at 5 of our school communities. Very importantly, we will air condition the 3 remaining CR schools that do not have air condition. And as someone who many moons ago taught elementary school in a school that did not have AC, I will tell you that the beginning of the year and the end of the year, not only aren't they any fun, but they're no good for learning. So that piece is near and dear to my heart, and empathize with those that don't have that air condition whenever we have temperatures or heat indexes in the mid to high 90s. So by 2023, we will be able to say with this plan that all Council Rock schools are air conditioned, and that's no small deal. Also no small deal is providing certainty for the Achieve, Sloan, and Twilight programs. We have, for over a decade now, had a lease with the Law School Admissions Council, LSAC, and it's been a very good partnership with them, but some things have been up in the air from an overall business standpoint with LSAC, and that lease is no longer guaranteed year to year. So, A, we need a home for those students, those very important students of our school district. B, it needs to be a home that is conducive to teaching and learning for those students. And C, it needs to be in the proximal location that's near businesses, in particular for the students in the Achieve program. And we are, through this plan, able to accomplish all of that. Through all of this, and you'll see this broken down a bit later, we will save an expected nearly $10 million over the course of the plan by developing and then executing this plan as we have. And then, of course, we are finalizing the Turf to Rocks project, which began more than a decade ago. There had been talk at that time and some fundraising efforts to provide a turf field at both high schools. Of course, that was accomplished at North, not at South. The North turf is actually due for replacement at this point, and this plan does also provide a turf field for Council Rock High School South. So the particulars of these 5 different projects, 3 of them are right here. And basically it's aging infrastructure at 3 of our elementary schools, all 3 of which are the ones that do not have air conditioning. So we're talking about Hillcrest Elementary, Richboro Elementary, and Sulfinestone Elementary. Hillcrest and Richboro, you can see that they are both over 30 years old. So they're without air conditioning, and they do have some of these aging systems and components, but they are 1980s design. So what that's going to mean for us is that this will not be as comprehensive of renovations as you have seen with Wrightstown and currently seeing with Rolling Hills and a couple of the other schools before that. So we're not looking at massive floor plan changes, moving walls, things like that. We're looking at the exterior of the buildings being freshened up, but stopping there, and corridors, probably not looking at new floors. So because the building isn't as old as some of the other ones, we're absolutely going to renovate these schools. It will be a significant renovation, but it will not be quite as comprehensive as have been these past ones. That's unlike Sulfinestone, where Sulfinestone has additional issues going against it, if you will. So the first thing you notice there is that building is about 49 years old with original features, almost 7 decades old. So we are there looking at a comprehensive renovation plus a 5 classroom addition. We will not be able to use Richboro Middle for swing space for Sulfinestone, and the 5 classroom addition will help with that. We can't use Richboro Middle for a couple reasons. One is that Sulfinestone has too many students to actually fit into Richboro Middle, and 2, just geography. The distance from Sulfinestone down to Richboro Middle would be too great. So this is a project that is somewhat of a standalone. Again, it does not have air conditioning. We have limited ADA capabilities. Right now it's a 2-story building without an elevator. So we need to bring this building again into the current century. You see listed there, I don't need to read them for you, a lot of just the infrastructure and the systems that are outdated and in need of significant improvement. Now I did put a footnote at the bottom that the only potential outstanding project between 2023 and 2030 would be the renovation of Newtown Elementary School. That is not in our current plan. We don't know if it will come into this current plan, but if it does, the scope of the renovation of Newtown would be very similar to that of Hillcrest and Richboro. So it's that modified renovation instead of the full-scale renovation. And then the other 2 projects, as we talked about, is first is a new building for Achieve Sloan and Twilight to be built on the former Richboro Middle School campus, and we are calling this new building the CR Star Center. STAR is an acronym that stands for Sloan, Twilight, Achieve, and then the R is for Richboro. Again, it provides certainty from a programmatic standpoint, given that the LSAC lease is no longer guaranteed. It will avoid almost $300,000 annually on lease expenditures, and this allows us at the end of this cycle, 2023, some long-term flexibility or options with that former RMS facility and site. And then lastly there, we have the turf field at Council Rock South. A lot of people think about sports right away, the athletic programs right away, and certainly that's a piece of it, but so is the physical education programming, so is the marching band. having time on there, and certainly community usage as well. So that project will include lighting, it will include a scoreboard and bleacher seating, minimal bleacher seating for about 200 people. And then as you can see, we are master designing this site from an infrastructure standpoint, so that should there be a desire, should there be funding at some point down the road in the future for a full stadium, that the infrastructure is there. So that will be part of the scope of this work as well. So timeline, here's what it looks like. You can see how tight this timeline is. The turf field at South will be ready by next October. And then you really see year by year, we have the CR Star Center being ready for the 21-22 school year, Hillcrest the very next year, Richboro the very next year after that, and then Sewell Finestone is already getting started from a design and approval standpoint. That's going to take longer, again, because we are keeping the Sewell Fine students on site while we do that project, so that, like Richboro, has a completion date of August 2023. It is critically important that we hit each and every one of these time milestones in order for this plan to work. This plan is contingent upon the CR Star Center being ready in August 2021 so that Hillcrest can move in. And then Hillcrest Elementary being ready for the 22-23 school year so that Richboro can move into the former Richboro Middle School. That's how we have this lined up. It's tight, it's doable. We just have to make sure that everything associated with these processes, from the design phase to the township approval phase to the actual construction phase itself, that we hit all those timelines, or else this plan will not be able to be executed as we have built it. So what does this look like from a cost standpoint and a cost savings standpoint? Right there you're seeing the 5 years, 5 consecutive years where we are using the former Richboro Middle School as swing space. You see that any one of those schools is in there for only 1 year at a time. The project costs are listed there, and then to the right of that are the cost savings for each of those projects. A lot of that cost savings is due strictly by being able to use the former Richboro Middle School. So again, we're cutting that construction process from 2 years down to 1. We don't need to bring modular classrooms in to house the students, which isn't something we desire to do from a safety and security standpoint anyway. And then you have some additional savings there for Hillcrest and Richboro because of the modified scope of the renovations. Again, I cannot emphasize it enough just how critically important it is that we hit all of these time milestones from the very beginning of the process to the completion of the construction, because year by year by year, that's our plan to move into and use the former Richboro Middle School. If we don't hit any of those, if any of those programs isn't able to move out of Richboro Middle School, then clearly that means that that next school can't move in. So now we are either delaying that timeline, which carries an inflationary cost with it, or we are going to have to bring modulars in to one of those sites and turn those into 2-year projects instead of 1-year projects. And again, that's a cost that certainly, as a district and being responsible stewards of taxpayer money, that we want to avoid. So I think that captures that in a nutshell, and that ends the presentation. Be happy to take my seat and take any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, very fine presentation, Dr. Frazier. Are there any questions for Dr. Frazier?
I have a quick question. Maybe it's for Doug, actually, Doug Taylor. During the 5 years that we're using Richboro Middle as the swing space, are we anticipating any costs, obviously, to keep it going and safe for the kids? I didn't see that, and there's been some questions in the community about that.
Yeah, the building is definitely at the end of its useful life.
We've spoken about that, right?
We're working hard to keep it operating through 2023, smoothly. So we do have our preventative maintenance service contracts we continue to apply to that building. And in our operating budget, we're going to have some monies allocated for annual roof maintenance, some things that we'll do to make sure it stays watertight. It's in pretty good shape. And the biggest concern I would have is maybe a boiler, which we're going to, again, have monies in our operating budget to address if there's an issue. So I don't foresee any major emergencies in going out and borrowing any kind of big monies to perform major repairs. But we do expect to have ongoing maintenance until we get to 23.
Good. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. And from a perspective standpoint, I would characterize that as pennies on the dollar.
Sure.
Yeah, relative to what we're saving.
Joe?
Thanks. Just from a standpoint, when we talked about the size of the addition, we were saying it was a 5-classroom addition, but I just wanted to clarify, because I think it was more a net addition of 5 classrooms, but the addition itself is larger than that. I just wanted to make that clear.
Are you talking about Sol Finestone?
Yes.
Yeah, so Sol Finestone, the net addition is 5 classrooms in total count to the program we currently have. When you see the plans, you'll see a 12-classroom addition coming off the side of the building. And that is 12 classrooms because we realize inefficiencies in the existing building. There are some classrooms that are undersized by today's standards. We're taking out those partitions. We're restructuring some of those wings to provide the appropriately sized classrooms. And by doing so, we displace some classrooms. And the other benefit of this plan is that by building this 12-classroom addition, we eliminate the need to put modulars on that site. So we're trading the money for modulars to build this new construction. At the end of the day, it's money spent that we're actually, getting value from, as opposed to hauling away modulars after a couple years that we've spent money for but have no value from. So,
Thank you. That was a great point I wanted to make public. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have just a question. So, Doug, in the presentation, or Dr. Fraser, the savings for Richboro Middle jumped significantly from $658,000 or something there about the first 2 schools, $287,000 for LSAC, which makes sense. You're not paying that lease payment, and then we jumped to $4.2 million for the last 2 schools. So, why the big jump? Just explain that to me. I know there are some significant savings you mentioned, but that's a big jump. So, I wonder if we can just.
I'll give the headline and then Doug can give some detail. So the headline is because with both of those schools, Hillcrest and Richboro, and the same thing would be true with Newtown Elementary whenever down the road that becomes the case. It's really, it's still a very significant renovation, but it is modified in scope. So we're not moving the floor plan around. We're not doing basically what Doug just described is happening at Sol Finestone. Not doing a lot of the exterior work because it's a 1980s design. So, Doug, you can speak much more to it than I can, but that's the big picture of it.
Yeah, you did a very good job speaking to it. And it's the truth of it is the classrooms are appropriately sized, so we're not doing to it what I mentioned at Sol Finestone, where we're knocking out partitions to restructure room sizes. There's going to be some minimal changes. We could displace a space or 2, so there's a little bit of money in there if we would have to do something small. But generally, the building is in good shape compared to the 1950s and 60s buildings we've been working with. They're 1989 vintage. It is older, but not nearly as old as those other buildings. So the buildings are in decent shape. The structure is in decent shape. The ceiling heights are appropriate for us to run utilities down the hallways. There's a lot of favorable elements to those buildings that we aren't seeing in the 1950s and 60s buildings. So it won't look anything like rolling hills. When you drive by and you see the roof slab and the floor slab and columns, you'll see the building as it lives today, and the exterior will feel very similar as it does today, just refreshed. New windows, some paint, cleanup kind of things.
So I understand that, but I'm having a difficult time understanding, and we can talk about it offline if you'd like, but just the correlation between a smaller scope of work and a larger savings. I would just think that it's kind of a time value of money kind of thing with the using Richboro Middle School. So, just because it's a big jump, again, I just don't quite understand, but we can talk about it directly.
Sure, I have a worksheet that shows the formula and the calculations and how we got there. I'm happy to share that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
If I may, just a couple of comments
Of course.
very briefly. That was a very helpful and concise presentation by Dr. Fraser on a lot of moving parts, a lot of projects. And I think it's a great summary. The public should know that these slides are on the website, on our agenda, if you want to review it, look at the details again. The public should know that the board is quite familiar with all these projects and this plan, and we've been walked through it, facilities committee meetings and so forth. And it's a lot of work, and it's a significant amount of money that we're spending, but I'm sure, personally, I'm convinced that it's all necessary and smart work, and the majority of it, the vast majority of it, with the exception of Turf the Rocks, which even you pointed out, Dr. Fraser, there's a learning element there too, an educational purpose. But what we're providing are equitable learning environments across all of our schools, and there are schools that have been inferior, lacking air conditioning, lacking proper layout, particularly Wrightstown, not being K-6, not having a gym. So those are the things that we're rectifying. So I think what we're doing is very smart. And a year ago, when we were talking about a lot of these needs, it didn't look financially feasible to do it all. And what the administration has figured out is a way to do it within our current financial constraints, which is pretty marvelous. With good financial management and good project management, Doug Taylor's done a wonderful job. It's a creative use of Richboro Elementary School. Our engineers and architects have done a terrific job. Bill Stone has put together the financial plan. So it's an awful lot of work, a significant amount of money, but we're familiar with the details, and I think it seems clear the will of the board is to do this work because it's necessary. So I just wanted to congratulate everybody involved.
Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Tate. And really, I might be misspeaking a bit, but using Richboro Middle School as a swing school, I think most of that falls on Mr. Taylor.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I'll say, to my detriment, that when Mr. Taylor first brought that up, I swallowed hard. I'm like, oh boy, I'm not sure how that's going to go over.
Yeah.
It's going over great. It's been a really, really game changer for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. Kudos to Mr. Taylor.
So well done. Well done to everyone as far as the operational application of using that school as well, because that's important. Just pulling up the sign from the other school and replacing it in front of that makes a big difference for those kids. So really well done. All right. Mr. Cox, are there any solicitor? Is there a solicitor's report?
There is, with respect to the announcement of executive sessions that occurred on October 3rd and October 10th. On the 3rd, the board discussed in executive session personnel and collective bargaining matters, and on the 10th, it discussed personnel and collective bargaining again and a confidential student matter. Beyond that, I don't have anything to add to my written report that I circulated to the board on Tuesday, Mr. Biles.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to our first round of public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Okay. Mr. Tate, can we please get an approval of minutes from our board meeting on September 19th, 2019?
Certainly, I move to approve the minutes of the public school board meeting on September 19, 2019.
I'll second it.
I
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rice to record unanimous consent on that motion. And moving on to our education committee.
Thank you, Mr. Bialik. Education Committee met on September 26th, and the main focus of that meeting was a presentation on school-wide positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS. This is a framework that is designed to improve social, emotional, and academic outcomes for all of our students. And as such, it's very much tied to our wellness goals as part of the strategic plan. We were updated on the current district-wide and school-level status of PBIS and also of the next steps for full implementation. Dr. Fraser, I just want to reiterate your important announcements about our upcoming Education Committee meetings next week on October 24th, where our topic will be school start times. and on November 29th, when we again will address school start times along with some possible revisions to our high school schedule. I know that these are issues that are of great importance to our community. I've had a lot of families in the Council Rock community talk about these issues with me. So I really want to encourage the public to come and join us for those meetings, listen to the presentations, and engage with us on discussion of these topics. Thank you. Now I'd like to move consent agenda items B and C as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any comments? Okay, hearing none. Any objections? Excuse me. Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rice to record the vote approved by unanimous consent.
And next,
Moving on, yes,
Thank
to item D.
I move to approve the July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2022 agreement between the Council Rock Educational Support Professional Association and the Council Rock School District.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Dr. Frazier?
Thank you, Mr. Bialik. I am thrilled that this item is before us here this evening. It's been a long road. I'm looking out at some of our bargaining team from Crespa, and I know that they feel similarly. This is good for the school district, and it's good for our Crespa team members. This agreement, we reached a tentative agreement a few days ago. This past Monday morning to the community, to the public, we posted an executive summary on the website and also posted a full draft of the agreement. That all happened on Monday morning. Then Crespa membership met yesterday, and they did ratify the agreement yesterday, and of course now we have the board vote before us. Again, both sides worked awfully hard for several months throughout this process. I do want to thank Cindy Lawn, Crespa president, who's in the audience here this evening, and the entirety of the Crespa leadership team. Thank you all. And I also want to thank the board and the entirety of the board's team, certainly including Ms. Christine Taylor, Director of Human Resources, and Mr. Bill Stone, Director of Business Administration. I view this contract as one that's fair for all parties. Our Crespa team members themselves, it's fair for them, it's fair for our taxpayers in the community, and when I think about our overall district operating budget, it's fair from that standpoint as well. The basic details of this agreement, Crespa members will receive salary increases over the 3-year deal of 1.75% in year 1, 1.75% in year 2, and 1.5% in year 3. They will also move on the salary scale in year 1 and again in year 3, but not in year 2. There's a few changes to the medical benefit plans and contributions, and finally there is a really well-deserved and important acknowledgement for some of our teaching assistants who work in particularly challenging environments in the form of a $150 annual stipend for those good folks. So as I reflect on this agreement, given the overall fairness of this tentative agreement, I am pleased to fully recommend to the board its approval here this evening. Thank you.
Excellent. Any comments or questions?
if I may make a brief comment. Negotiations can be difficult. It's a long and it's a tough process. And I do also want to reiterate Dr. Frazier's remarks of applauding your leadership in conducting yourselves through the negotiations. And I also just want to give the message to your membership of how very valued they are in the Council Rock community. We are all partners in this district for educating our children, for doing what's right for kids. And I hope that you'll bring that message back to them, that you are very valued members of our community.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what she was saying. When I was part of this process, I really came home how important your staff is and the support staff is to the school district, and it's the lifeblood of our organization here, our school district. It really is. And I was going to suggest that we have a teacher appreciation day. Maybe it's national, but I really think that we should celebrate support staff. Pick a day, think about it, and I think maybe even a week, but you guys are really to be celebrated for what you do, because I see it as a parent and as a community member. What you guys are doing, it really helps the school district from the bottom up and from the top down. So we really appreciate everything that you do, and I'm glad we got to this point here. Thank you.
Other comments? Okay. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, please. Yes.
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 Okay. Motion passes 6-0.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you again.
And if I may, I didn't want to say this before the vote, but it's important to say it after the vote, and very much echoes the comments that we just heard. You know, when I first came to the district a little over 4 years ago now, sort of coined this phrase, all roads lead to the classroom. That whole idea, that whole notion is about support staff. It's about all the different work that happens in the school district that paves the way for teaching and learning to occur in the classroom. So whether it's our secretarial staff, whether it's people who are helping in the cafeteria to make sure the students are fed, whether it's our maintenance folks making sure that the temperature in the building and everything that needs to function correctly does function correctly, to our transportation system and making sure that we are, getting kids to and from the way that we should. All that stuff sets up our students for success. All of that sets up our teachers for success. That's really what all roads lead to the classroom is about. So as Marianne, extends that appreciation and says, please pass it on. I can do so myself, and I will, but I'll ask that you do that on my behalf as well, because we know they can't hear it enough. We all can't hear it enough. So thank you for the work that you do. Nothing short of invaluable, nothing short of absolutely critical. We would cease to function without the work of our teammates in Crespo. So thank you, and again, congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, Marianne, moving on to item D, or E.
Thank you. I move to approve the donation from Churchville Elementary School PTO to purchase Chromebooks as contained in the attachment to this agenda.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion?
I just want to say, because I always thought that Marina and Welsh had when I was at that school, they had a significant, I thought, PTO donation for Chromebooks, and it was over $20,000. And to see this, that's $31,000. I think this might be one of the bigger checks I've ever seen. So I think that PTO deserves a big shout out, and I know you're a big proponent, Mr. Ed Solomon, of getting those Chromebooks in the classrooms, and what a great partnership with the community.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. We meet once a month, the PTO presidents, and technology is a topic of conversation monthly. $31,000, 120 new Chromebooks going into the Churchville community is outstanding. I know I can tell you off the record tonight, I talked to our principal, Joe McClay. We're going to be adding some more to Holland. This is a challenge right now. I think at some point, and Doug, I've asked for Chromebook numbers. You look at the amount of Chromebooks in our elementary levels. It's significant compared to middle and higher. Last time I counted it was about 1,407 Chromebooks would get us 1-to-1. These PTO are generous, and they're getting these kids exactly what they need at the elementary levels. Good stuff. A lot of great stuff going on in this district.
Yeah, and I just want to say, seeing the numbers grow is great. So shout out to the PTO and Lisa Caddy, who's the president, for impressing me. So thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Solomon, you're 100% on the record, just so you know.
I'm always on. Well, yeah, that's good.
That's okay.
Surprise.
Still a good comment. Listen, we can't do it without the Crespo folks. We can't do it without the PTOs. As Dr. Fraser said, it takes everybody, and it does always continue to amaze me when we do all pay taxes, and our taxes are not inexpensive. They're not the highest, but they're not inexpensive. But people continually give to CREF, and they continually give to the PTO. So we have a generous community, and we have hardworking folks who laser focus on the things that are important to them. And it doesn't mean that other things don't matter, but we need the folks that are going to focus on things and bring them to the table. So really, really great stuff. So we have a motion and a second. Any objections to the motion? None. Hearing that, we're going to ask Ms. Rice to report it as unanimous consent. Okay. Ms. Brooks is not here. Does anyone have any information on the IU that they'd like to share? Or shall we pass? Okay, we'll go right to MBIT.
Thank you, Mr. Bialik. I have one update for MBIT, and then I'm going to pass it over to Ms. McKee. At the Executive Council meeting that was held, we had a report on enrollment, and there was a 5% increase for MBIT enrollment year over year, so from 2018 to 2019. In terms of Council Rock students, we are currently at 136 students, 16.6% of MBIT overall. And our draw in terms of how, like the percentage of students from Council Rock that are going there, we're about the same as we were previously. And now Ms. McKee will be sharing some information
Thank you, Mrs.
about the
Marcel.
lintels and capital planning.
Thank you. You will be happy to know that the lintel project has gone out to bid. There were 6 different companies that submitted bids. Unfortunately, only one bid came in under the projected cost, with a great degree of variation in costing amounts for those for price for those bids. A summary of the bids will be sent to an engineer to validate the numbers and the costs. And just a good reminder for us to know that part of the bid process stipulated that any and all bids may be rejected for any reason. So that is to be continued. We did have discussion about the capital needs assessment that took place. And as you know, meetings are occurring with the sending districts, directors of operational services, along with the directors of business administration. So that is also to be continued. And then finally, I would just make note that there was an executive session to discuss a contractual issue.
Excellent. And I am continually impressed how you two work so hard at bringing us great information. You've done a better job than anyone that I've experienced serving as MBIT representatives, including myself for a few years. So,
Mr. Bialik, thank you, but Mrs. Marcel makes us all look good.
Okay.
No.
Are you saying she prepares your notes? Is that what
No.
and your last comment was very, very important, and I appreciate Mr. Taylor and Mr. Stone getting involved and all the other districts. So for the public, what's really happening, and I'm sure will continue to happen, is that our professionals who we count on to vet the information that we're getting from MBIT, not that it's incorrect or at issue, it's just these are the folks that we trust with the process and the figures. They meet with the folks from MBIT and bring that to us and kind of distill it down to the information level that we can understand and we can get our arms around, because this is, who knew what a lintel was before 6 months ago, right? So this is just things that maybe you did, I didn't know. So, but that's very helpful because these are not inconsequential decisions we make. The dollars are large, they're real, and they affect our programs at school. So it's important to make the correct decision. Very, very good. Okay, good for you. Thank you for being honest, because I knew that. Council Rock Education Foundation.
So as Mr. Bialik mentioned, all roads do lead to the classroom, and I have a few updates from CREF, which is a very important part of that. So first, I just wanted to thank people, and just a few folks, I'll make this short, for the Council Rock Golf Classic. First, I want to thank Mr. Tate, Mr. Block for joining that golf classic. It was a little bit of a chilly, rainy day, but it was fun nonetheless, and a very huge success. So I just wanted to thank the organizing committee, the volunteers, the golfers, everyone that came out. It was really a wonderful event for the first golf classic, and I believe that we're already talking about next year. And so I'll be in touch with more details once we know that. And I hope that a few more board members might join us next year. The second update is that last weekend, CREF held the Council Rock Glow Dance, which I had the privilege of attending with my daughter and some of her friends. So I also wanted to thank CREF and the volunteers. It was a really well-done event. There were 804 attendees, and it was at the Fuge, which was a great venue for it. There were a number of just different parents and students that were interacting. It was a great event. So I just wanted to send a thank you for that. And then I have one more update, which is a reminder that next week is the Council Rock Pumpkin Fest, which is at Shady Brook Farm. It's on Wednesday, October 23rd. There are a lot of different activities for all different age groups. Tickets are $10, and there's more information at creducationfoundation.org.
Excellent. Is that new this year? Pumpkin Fest? No? Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Policy Committee, Mr. Tate.
Policy Committee did not meet last month, Mr. Bialik. We will meet again next on November 4th at 7 p.m., and all are invited.
Excellent. Finance Committee. I was not able to attend the Finance Committee last week because I had a work commitment. So Mr. Solomon sat in as chair, did an outstanding job, sir. I'm going to ask, before you give your report, though, I'm going to ask Mr. Stone to give us an update on the bond refinancing.
Thank you, Mr. Bialik. This morning, the district refinanced its bonds of 2013 and Series A of 2013, thereby creating the new Series B of 2019. The new rates went from 2.2% to 2.5% range down to 1.17 to 1.49%. So remarkably low that we were able to refinance those. The savings total $481,000, which was about $60,000 greater than our minimum savings target. Those savings will be used to offset future increases in debt service payments. And I'd like to publicly express my appreciation to PFM, King Spry, our bond counsel, and Eastburn and Gray, our solicitor's office, for their assistance with the transaction.
Mr. Solomon.
Hey, good evening again. The Finance Committee meeting met on October 3rd. A lot of what was discussed during the meeting was the current bus routes that we're going to talk about shortly. We're setting the stage for next year's budget and an update on our bonds that Mr. Stone just touched on. So with that in mind, I move to approve the consent agenda items B through D as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Comments? Objections? Hearing none, I'm going to ask Ms. Rice to record the action as approved via unanimous consent. Before we move on, if I could, I just want to make one comment, if it's appropriate. There was a few years ago, and I think at the last meeting, you had someone from Cornerstone come out.
Correct.
And do a presentation. There was some word in the news where different school districts are having some issues because of swap arrangements that they got into, and Council Rock was able to avoid that, which is a very positive thing. And having good counsel on those issues, like we do with Mr. Cox, I think helps us avoid those types of snafus. So we're not in the same situation as some of our board colleagues with having to come up and pay money. We continue to save money and do good things, so that's wonderful. Thank you. So thank you for your indulgence there. Moving on, our next item is item E, and Mr. Stone, can you give us a comment on that, please?
Certainly. This is the annual requirement to approve the school bus routes. This will be for the 2019-2020 school year. I'll reiterate two things that I mentioned at the committee meeting. The first being that this approval is subject to adjustment and modification as necessary in order to maintain the safe and efficient operation of our transportation operation. And after much consternation and effort this fall, we have returned to a service profile similar to what we've experienced in years past in terms of the number of vehicles, the number of bus stops, and the number of bus routes. We are obviously still working very closely with First Student to make sure that we address the issues that may arise with respect to timing and provide that high level of service that our community has come to expect and that we've come to expect from First Student.
Very good, thank you. Can I get a motion, please, Mr. Simon?
Yes, I move to approve the 2019-2020 bus routes, subject to the adjustment and modification as determined by the administration to be necessary and appropriate to ensure the safety and efficiency of the transportation operation during the school year.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any comments? Any objections? Hearing none, I'm going to ask Mrs. Rice to record the action as approved via unanimous consent. And moving on to item F, approval of Financial Advisory Committee.
I move to approve the establishment of the Citizens Financial Advisory Committee to be comprised of a school district residents and charged with making non-binding recommendations about the district's financial practices to the Board of School Directors.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Pilek. We've discussed the formation of the Financial Advisory Committee over the past several months, primarily during our Finance Committee meetings. And I'll make several points about how this committee will operate. Mr. Salomon's identified its primary purpose, that being to analyze our financial practices and make recommendations that could be considered as part of our budget process. This will be a self-selected and self-directed committee. The administration guides the work but does not direct the work. So this is truly looking for ideas that are coming from outside of the walls of Council Rock, from our community. The work begins with educating the Financial Advisory Committee and allowing them to observe one full cycle of the budget process so that they can get a general sense for how school finance works. And Dr. Frazier and I will be working closely with them along the way to advise them about why we do things the way we do in terms of timing, particularly because of the requirements of Act 1. The action tonight also includes a code of conduct, as Mr. Salomon mentioned. That will be signed by all the members. That will govern their work and interactions amongst the committee members as well as with the administration and with the broader community. And I think that was a thoughtful addition by the board to add that into the recommendation. So upon approval, I'll be reaching out to the Financial Advisory Committee members. We had 12 folks express interest in being involved, although that number may grow as more subject matter experts are brought into the fold. But I'll be reaching out to set up a first meeting and begin the process if it is approved by the board in a few minutes.
Any comments from the board?
Joe, just a question. Will the code of conduct be posted somewhere? I guess is there a page on the CR website that will have that code of conduct for public review?
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's posted on Board Docs?
It is posted
right
on Board
now?
Docs. I believe that it will be important that we post some of the work that the committee does along the way. So we may form on the business office website a specific page for the Financial Advisory Committee. We can post it there also.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Great idea. Okay. Any other comments? Any questions? Should I ask for a roll call vote, or should we just? Yes? No? Any objections? Okay. Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rice to happily record this as passing via unanimous consent. And I wanted to save my comments until after the vote. So I have to tell you, I was looking for a tissue because I almost have a tear in my eye. Do you think that's too dramatic, Kristen? So it's been, I remember having this discussion with fellow board members the minute I was sworn in my first term in this position. And this is another example of Council Rock willing to, and its board and its administration, to be willing to step out of the comfort zone of what everyone else does. Because I know other school districts have these financial advisory committees, but I don't think there's a lot of them. Am I right about that? So to be willing, the board and the administration, to bring in potential experts from the community and hear different ideas, which is often difficult for people to do, I give you nothing but my heartfelt appreciation and credit. I hope that we get some amazing information and helpful nuggets from this group, but if we don't, that's okay too, because we've done everything that we needed to do, or everything we can from a fiduciary responsibility I believe we have as a board, because we have some big issues that continue to be ahead of us. We've been very, very fortunate with bond financing and costs and great ideas like using Richboro Middle School to swing students to help us save $10 million over the term of these projects. But at some point, our luck has to run out, maybe, right? And things might get a little more difficult. So hopefully, we'll be able to get some great information from this committee. So I thank everyone, and I'm really looking forward to see how it works out. Thank you. Moving on. Personnel actions. Mr. Hidalgo, can I ask you to take that, please? Item G.
I move to approve the personnel actions as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second.
For G and H.
Well, I don't have them together. Do you want to?
Sure, I move to approve the personnel action addendum as contained in the attachment to this agenda.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion, and do I have a second for the second motion, please?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for both motions. Are there any questions? Ms. Taylor, do you have any comment? No. Any comments from the board? Any objections? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rice to record the action as approved via unanimous consent. And that brings us to the Facilities Committee. And Mr. Solomon, you're up again.
Thank you again. Facilities Committee met on October 10th, and much of what was discussed was already discussed this evening. We went over the updates of the various construction and renovation projects going on, and finalizing and going over what we did in the previous summer and moving forward. Again, tremendous work by Mr. Taylor and his group of folks getting the work done and efficiently for the district. With that being said, I move to approve the consent agenda items B through E as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? Any comments? Any objections? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rice to approve the action via unanimous consent. And holy moly, that brings us to our next round of public comment. Am I missing something? We're not. Okay. It's 8:15, Dr. Frazier. Is there any public comment from the public? No. Okay. Moving down to board comment, any new business? Any old business? Hearing none, I'll move for adjournment. Any objections? No. Meeting adjourned. 8:15? Okay.